everyone. I wanted to bring you this Christmas card that I created, and unfortunately my media card ended up filling up. I had no idea that it stopped recording and I lost some footage, but I thought that I would share this with you anyway. I wanted to share how you can really step up your Christmas cards using greenery with your die cuts. So this is a beautiful die cut image of a deer, but adding the additional pieces of the poinsettia and the greenery to the left really changed the look of this card. Here's a look at the Prosperity die set. I'm showing you a close-up of the deer. I do color it off camera. There's two flowers there, and that gave me the idea to create the poinsettias to add dimension to the Christmas card. There's coordinating dies. That stamp set is actually on sale, as well as the die set. Here's some poinsettias and then some greenery branches that I'm going to use to really change the style of the card. I'm going to create an arch, so I have a frame. I'm going to use two pieces to create a frame and then a center piece that's going to hold some pattern paper. The pattern paper gave me the inspiration for the card today and the color combination that I used. I was kind of looking through some older paper that I had, and I thought that it really would be a beautiful grounding, especially for the deer. This is Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided tape, so this is a 6x6 piece. I've added a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch white cardstock to it. One side is sticking to my cardstock. When I remove the release paper, I'm also going to have adhesive on the top side. That adhesive on the top side is going to allow me not only to add my pattern paper to my die cut, but it's also going to allow me to use the Elizabeth Craft Designs Microfine Silk Glitter. I have the release paper face up because that is where the sticky part is going to be, and I want to make sure that it's on the top of this die cut. So I'm going to align my arches, and then I'm going to use some purple tape to make sure that they stay in place. I thought that I was going to be able to get a twofer by adding the arch to the center of this card panel, but it ended up shifting when I die cut it. So I did end up with my frame, and then of course with the center. Here is the inspirational paper. I'm going to use the smaller of the arches to die cut that out, and then I'll remove the release paper, align that pattern paper to that, and that is going to be the grounding piece for my images. As I mentioned, I did color and die cut the deer off camera. I am going to add some double-sided foam tape to the back of it to make sure that I give it even more dimension. But first I want to talk about the Microfine Glitter. Here we have the arch, and as I mentioned, I removed the release paper and I have this sticker on top. I'm going to sprinkle some gold Microfine Glitter over the top, and then once I sprinkle this on, this glitter is super fine. It's not chunky at all, and I have a bone folder there, and that bone folder is going to allow me to burnish that glitter into the cardstock. And I have to tell you, I have had glitter paper that sheds, but once you burnish this into the adhesive and the cardstock, it stays where it's going to be. So it changes colors. It's going to brighten up a little bit as you burnish it. And I really love the look of this glitter. Super smooth. There's no texture to the arch at all. I'm going to center this onto my card panel. Now I've added a piece of blue cardstock over the top of this top folding card panel that is finished at 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, so it's A2 size. I'm adding some tape runner to the back of my arch, and I tell you, I should have used art glitter glue. This is some inexpensive tape runner that I purchased off of Amazon when I was giving a class, and it really was super stringy and a lot more trouble than my wet glue would have been, but it was sitting right there, so I thought I would give it a try. And now I know, no, I'm not going to use it on anything that's delicate like this little frame. I'm going to center that onto my card panel, and as I mentioned, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of this piece And that again is going to add a little bit more detail to the card. I really love this Prosperity stamp set, and I think that it's absolutely beautiful by itself. But one of my favorite things to do is to add die cuts to my cards, and I think that it really just steps it up. It makes it go from a beautiful card to an extraordinary card, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about and share with you today as I create this. Now, unfortunately, I made a mistake right here. Let me tell you how I should have done this. So you can see that I added double-sided tape to the to a piece of cardstock, and I die cut my poinsettias, and I ended up losing leaves. I ended up having a really hard time removing the release paper because this is the smallest of the poinsettia dies, number one, and number two, it's very delicate. So a way to avoid all of the problems that you're seeing as I'm adding this glitter to the poinsettias is to go ahead and take a piece of cardstock, as I did in the beginning, add your double-sided adhesive to it, and then add the Microfine Glitter. So if I would have added the red glitter and burnished it and then ran it through my die cutting machine, I wouldn't have had the problems that I'm having right here, trying to handle the sticky paper, losing some of those leaves, not all of the release paper coming off at one time. Do as I say, not as I'm doing right here, but I did leave the process in. These are going to end up being the two flowers that are going to go over the stamped flowers. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take two flowers, or two die cuts for each flower, and create two flowers. I'll offset one on top of the other, and then off camera I did bring in some black not microfine, but black glitter, and I'm going to add it to the center to add a little bit of interest. Now there are little die cut pieces that you can add stamens to this. I thought that the glitter that I added was perfect. There's a look at that shiny microfine glitter. I did want to mention that once you burnish that in, unlike other glitter paper, it is not going to come off, and it gives you a very shiny and smooth finish. I die cut one of the berries, and then I did end up die cutting two of the holly leaves. I'm only going to show you the coloring of one. While I'm coloring these, I do have the caps up on the screen. So I'm adding a little bit of detail by doing a flicking motion, adding some shading to the bottom of the berry, and then I blend it out with my mid-tone and my lighter color. I rounded the top of the berries so that when I go to add my green to the top, that it's not going to, I'm not going to have the red and the green colors mixing, so I did add that roundness to it. But these little die cut pieces are fabulous for adding to any of your Christmas cards. I think this is kind of a staple set that you should all have in your collection. Any type, I mean, it doesn't have to be this particular set, but any type of holiday greenery, because if I would have added the deer to the center of the arch, as I mentioned before, it would have been pretty, but it really just changed the whole feel of this card by taking the time to color up this additional greenery. The holly branches do come with little berries, and so what I did is I colored those with the same reds off camera, and I did attach a cluster of them to one of the holly branches. And I think that, you know, adding those little details, adding the berries, adding the greenery to your pieces are really going to step things up. Now, I wanted to add a different green to the center of this. This holly leaf does have some embossed markings on the leaves, and so I went ahead and just went over those with that darker G85, and I think that it really gave those leaves a little bit of dimension. I am going to show you my finished card and talk about the assembly. So I added foam tape to the deer so that I could put the greenery in behind him. I aligned him more to the right side of the arch, and then I tucked the greenery all the way around. I added some detail with a white gel pen, and of course I did not glue down the whole leaf so that I could make sure that I had that movement on there. I did use a peace sentiment, and I stacked it up twice. That comes from another Elizabeth Craft Designs stamp set. I will link everything in the description box below. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for joining me.